Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in. We are taking the rigid theory of qualitative research design and throwing it directly into the dynamic crucible of an AI-driven simulation sandbox. If you've ever felt that reading about research methodology is completely different from actually surviving it out in the field, well, you are exactly where you need to be. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 5 key areas. First, defining qualitative research. Then, data collection and analysis. Third, validating your findings. Fourth, the AI simulation sandbox. And finally, the active simulation loop. Starting off with Section 1, defining qualitative research, the foundation of inquiry. Let's get our theory dialed in before we test it in the real world. Our absolute North Star for today is Cresswell and Cresswell's Research Design 6th edition. It's really the gold standard framework that dictates how we explore the complex culture-sharing behaviors of individuals and groups. Everything we discuss today, from the baseline methodology right up to the AI rules of engagement, is strictly grounded in this text. Now, the crucial point to remember is that qualitative research isn't just about crunching numbers, right? It's a highly complex process. It relies heavily on an emergent design, meaning your plan can and probably will shift as you learn more. But most importantly, the researcher acts as the key instrument in a natural setting. You have to constantly apply reflexivity. That basically means you're acutely aware of how your own personal background shapes your interpretation of the data, whether you're building theories from the ground up or testing existing ones. When you are building your approach, you're going to hit a pretty distinct fork in the road. Will you lean towards simple descriptive methods, which basically catalog everyday data into themes with very little theoretical interpretation? Or are you going to deploy strict analytic frameworks, like narrative studies, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, or case studies? Each of those analytic frameworks comes with profound philosophical foundations and really strict rules. Moving right into Section 2, data collection and analysis, gathering the evidence. This is where it gets really interesting, figuring out how we gather our text and image data while protecting our actors and settings. Because qualitative research typically uses a small number of carefully selected sites or individuals, the big question always pops up. How do you actually know when to stop collecting data? Well, your sample size is ultimately determined by hitting a concept called saturation. This is that absolutely critical milestone where collecting fresh data just no longer sparks any new insights or reveals new properties about your participants or setting. You've essentially tapped the well dry. To hit that saturation point and, keep your notoriously strict institutional review board happy, researchers deploy 4 main collection procedures. You've got qualitative observations, where you are taking incredibly detailed field notes. You have interviews using specific protocols of 5 to 10 structured questions with probing follow-ups. Then there's document analysis of public or private records. And finally, gathering audio and visual materials like photographs or social media text. Once you've collected all that, this massive mountain of evidence feeds directly into the analysis process. Qualitative data is wildly dense, so you have to winnow it down. You organize it, transcribe it, read everything to get a general sense, and then the real work begins. Coding. You bracket chunks of text and assign representative category words. From there, you build up descriptions and themes to craft a compelling chronological storyline. During this coding analysis, you're actually going to organize your codebook into 3 distinct buckets. First, topics readers absolutely expect to find based on common sense and past literature. Second, entirely surprising codes you definitely didn't anticipate when you started. And third, highly unusual codes that offer unique, profound conceptual interest to your audience. Those are usually the real gems. Which brings us to Section 3, validating your findings, securing the study. Before we let you loose in the AI simulation, we have to talk about defense mechanisms. How do you prove your findings are actually accurate and reliable? Your absolute best shield against inaccuracy is triangulation. You can't just rely on a single interview. You have to examine evidence from multiple, completely different data sources, say, crossing your field notes with focus group transcripts and public documents, to rigorously build a heavily justified narrative for your themes. It makes your argument rock solid. But you can't just stop there. To ensure unshakable validity, you need a few more defenses. You use member checking, which literally means taking your findings back to the participants to see if they feel you got it right. You have to clarify your own biases. Crucially, you must present negative, discrepant information that runs counter to your themes to prove you're being objective. And you absolutely must apply rigorous reliability checks, like preventing the meaning of your codes from drifting over time. All right, on to the really fun part. Section 4, the AI Simulation Sandbox, from theory to practice. This is where we leave the safety of the textbook and enter the educational simulation gateway to stress test your proposal against a highly adaptive AI. Think of this like a flight simulator, but for researchers. Unlike a standard basic chatbot that just spits out answers, this environment acts as an adaptive methodological advisor. It reads your actual research goals on the fly and procedurally generates realistic institutional constraints, validity threats, and data errors, all based strictly on the Cresswell framework we just talked about. Booting up the system is a very precise process. First, you open the Gateway workspace and select a robust data parsing platform like ChatGPT or Claude. Then, you choose your specific simulation case. For qualitative research, you're going to pick Scenario 12. Next, you set your horizon length somewhere between 3 and 20 rounds, which dictates the length of your field study. And finally, you initialize the whole thing by copying the strict verification prompts and pasting them directly into the chat. But the simulation won't actually kick off until you establish what we call turn zero context binding. This is your entry gate where you lock in your researcher stats. You have to explicitly declare your baseline research question, your philosophical worldview, so whether you are leaning toward post-positivism, social constructivism, transformative, or pragmatic, and your specific design framework like ethnography. The AI locks this in and uses it to judge every single future decision you make. Now we are really in the thick of it. Section 5, the active simulation loop, entering the crucible. It is time to navigate the relentless, simultaneous challenges the AI is about to throw at your methodology. Here is the actual engine under the hood. Rather than a casual back-and-forth chat, the AI processes your inputs across 3 separate layers, all at the exact same time. The environment will literally freeze, absolutely preventing you from advancing to the next turn until you've adequately addressed all 3 layers of the simulation. Let's break those layers down. In every single round, Layer 1, the compass, dynamically updates your field notes, throwing custom institutional review board resistance or data errors at you. Simultaneously, Layer 2, the warning, hits you with real-time friction. Think internal traps, attrition threats, or heavy ethical dilemmas. Finally, Layer 3, the brain, anchors the whole workspace by demanding you justify your scientific controls, making you answer 3 to 5 targeted, open-ended questions based on those turn zero parameters you set. If you want to survive these hazards and maintain accurate tracking metrics, you have to play by the rules of engagement. Rule number 1 is total saturation. Answer every prompt completely. Rule 2 is framework alignment. Your responses have to perfectly match that worldview you declared. And Rule 3, respect the system boundaries. Rely entirely on your scientific controls, and whatever you do, do not break character. Since real-world research takes time, there is a built-in data persistence protocol. At the end of every round, the system pauses and hands you a text-based progress report code. You literally must copy and save this block of text. Why? Because we all know the absolute heartbreak of a browser crashing mid-work. This code lets you paste it into a fresh AI window so you can instantly reload your exact active variables and your entire turn history. It is a lifesaver. Once you successfully navigate all that friction and reach your final turn threshold, the sandbox triggers a terminal academic evaluation. For our qualitative Scenario 12, it generates an open coding audit layout, measures how well you managed your ethical reflexivity, and evaluates your validation rigor by checking those triangulation controls we talked about. Finally, it compiles all your decisions into a neat portfolio for review. So we are really looking at a paradigm shift here. By giving researchers a simulated sandbox to safely fail, adapt, and triangulate their methods against procedurally generated friction, we have to ask a massive question. How will stress testing academic proposals through AI before ever stepping foot into the field permanently change the entire landscape of qualitative research? How will this virtual crucible, which literally forces us to practice our defense mechanisms before ever facing a real participant, permanently elevate the rigor and reliability of all future discoveries? Think about that for a minute.